Hi guys, welcome. Thank you for coming to watch this lovely interview. Today I am joined by the lovely Hannah Macintyre, who is an evidential medium from Kent. Hi
Hi.
Hannah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on here. You also have your own podcast, Mediumship Matters,
I do.
and you also do a lot of platform mediumship, don't you?
I do. I spend a lot of time doing platform mediumship. It's my favourite thing.
Amazing. You're very brave, because even though I do mediumship, I've only tried platform mediumship once and it wasn't for me.
Well, I think it either is or it isn't. It might come back to you. You might find you come full circle with it, but
Yep.
there's something for me with the buzz of working in front of a live audience that I really love.
Absolutely. Amazing. So I'd like to start right at the beginning and ask you about your spiritual journey, whether you've always been like this or how you came about to be a medium, really, if that's okay.
Of course. I haven't always been like this, actually. And I sort of tripped across mediumship is probably the best way of phrasing it. So
Wow.
now when I look back, I can see spirit and I can see the things that were spirit communicating with me. But at the time, I was just completely oblivious.
Unaware of
I
it. Yeah.
knew that I knew things. I knew that I picked up on things, but in that way that we have as humans, I never acknowledged it. We didn't
No.
discuss it. There are stories in my family that now I can't believe we didn't just sit around a table going, but we didn't. We
Wow.
just like, yeah, we knew that, we'll carry on, whatever. And so I came across spirit I was 30. I think I was
Oh,
about 30,
wow.
29, 30. And I had two children. And I was having a really difficult time. And I have to be honest and say I was probably 20 years in to a really difficult time.
Yeah.
So I'd had lots of challenges, lots of emotional issues, lots of confidence issues, depression, money problems. And it just got to this point where I'd had these two children, which were the most amazing gift. And I couldn't see the point. Not in the children, but in life. I was like, what have I put them into? Everyone's so unkind, everyone's so limited, everyone's so horrible. And it was at that time that a colleague that I worked with, it was a music school, it wasn't spiritual. She just came up to me one day and went, I've got your grandfather here, and just did me a spirit link and changed my whole life.
Oh my God. And was that the first time somebody had done that with you?
Yeah. I'd never sought out mediums. I'd never worked with mediums. I had my own cards that I think I'd got in my stocking when I was like 12, but I'd never, it would never been part of my dialogue. I knew that psychics were out there. I'd never felt drawn to them. I'd never felt interested. I was missing my grandfather so desperately. He'd been gone 10 years at that point, if not more. And I was devastated without him, but it had never occurred to me to go and get a spirit link from somebody. So spirit took it into their own hands, and she's just said to me, come along to my circle, come tomorrow night. And I went, okay. And I thought that they would all be working and I would get to see other mediums working. I thought this will be amazing to see. So when I arrived and the teacher went, right, what are you getting? And I went, oh, sorry, what? Me? Who? And then I realized that actually, there are natural born mediums like you, but there are also people like me who have been communicated spirit, because I think we all do on some level, but aren't aware of it, aren't consciously doing it, but it is still available to them. And it just became this passion and it kept growing from there.
Wow. So did you develop from that circle?
Yeah. Basically, I couldn't get enough. It was like Pandora's box had opened, or I'd gone through some doorway, and once I'd gone through it, everything changed. My whole life changed, and I couldn't look back. I couldn't be who I was before I knew what I now knew.
Yeah. And
I just had 100,000 questions that I wanted answering, which I think is why I do the podcast, because I love questions. I love, how does this work? Why is it like this? And I couldn't get enough. And I was actually really dedicated to it. And I really want to acknowledge that. I think we like to think that spirit will bring it to us, but I think they also want you to show up. They want you to commit. And I turned up every week without fail, even with, small children. I went to learn, I made that commitment, and I showed up, and it went from there.
Amazing. And like you say, like not everyone's naturally born that way, although we do see stuff, but maybe we're not looking for it. So sometimes certain things have to happen in people's lives in order to put them into that position, for them to be like, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And it almost sounds like you went through all those bad times. I'm sorry, you know, that you had to do that, you know, but to get to where you are, and it was like, right, this is your life purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that I've only really registered it as a purpose or a calling in the last 6 months. And I've been working professionally for Spirit for a long time, 8 years, 9 years. But I think we sort of hold ourselves back, don't we? And we think a calling is going to be, you know, an effigy, Gandalf the Grey coming into your bedroom and saying, this is what you are supposed to do, and striking you with lightning. And actually, sometimes just the fact that you love it is the calling. The fact that you want to do it is the calling.
Yeah, you sound like me, where you've got that passion in you. And it is, isn't it great to get up for work every day doing something that you absolutely love, rather than having to go out that door to a 9 to 5 and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
So when did you actually kind of start it as a business?
It sort of came in stages, in phases. So I was already self-employed, which I think helped, because I think for a lot of people that's a massive barrier to go through. So I'd already gone through that barrier. I had a cooking business, and I was busting a gut for that and never made a profit because it wasn't right for me. Thanks for the lesson. So I just thought, well, it got to the point where I decided to give up my cooking business because I was actually paying to work, because that was great, it was working. And I just thought, well, I've got my Reiki qualifications. I'll just see if anyone wants a bit of Reiki, and maybe I'll do some cards if they want cards. But I had real resistance to it because I really wanted to make sure I was ready. And I always, although I'm quite lighthearted with it, I do take mediumship very seriously. And I think when you start reading for people professionally, you have to be it has to be really integrated within you. You have to be confident in your connection and the information you've received from Spirit. And you have to have done the work on yourself. I mean, the work on yourself never ends, but you have to have done some. And so I kept holding off. And I remember finally being brave enough to ask my teacher what she thought I needed to do. And she went, I thought you already were reading professionally for people. And I went, no, and she went, but I thought you've been doing it for a couple of years. I said, no, I've been waiting for you to tell me. And she went, oh yeah, you've been ready for ages. And because I'd sat there and held on it. So I just played with it. And I think that's really important. I put it out there, massively underpriced myself,
as we always do it.
Massively undercut myself, but learned the lessons from that. And I just put it out there and thought, see if anyone's interested, and people were. And it just grew from word of mouth and grew from word of mouth, up until lockdown, where it just went nuts online for me. And I got quite a big following from that. But until that point, it was all word of mouth. It was all recommendations. It was all local people. And I just went from there, and it grew.
That's fantastic. And, you know, lockdown, I think my business grew in lockdown as well. Like, some people's businesses were sort of drying up. I was really lucky too, because people just want to know what's going on, or they want to make those connections. So have your own podcast as well, and I know
sorry Fenn, I don't know,
well over 100.
There you go.
It's okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, you're breaking up, so I was like, I can't hear the question. No, go for it.
So you've had you've obviously got your own podcast, and I know you've done way over 100 episodes. What made you sort of create your podcast?
Anger.
Really?
Yeah. And this is, I think it's really important to acknowledge that, because I think that people think anger is bad, and it is bad if you're holding on to it and you're nurturing it and you're holding it to your chest. But a little bit of righteous indignation never did anyone any harm. And I was watching another medium online over lockdown, and she said in her live, your loved ones in the spirit world are drawn to the energy of shares. if you want to get a spirit connection, share this live into as many groups. I don't care if it's spiritual, I don't care if it's buy, sell, whatever, just get it out there, because that will build a space for me to be able to connect to your loved ones. And I was raging. And I was so angry, and I just thought, that's defrauding people. The energy of social media is probably the least spiritual space to be in, no matter how hard we try. And I was furious, and I thought, what can I do to educate people to understand that this is different? And I did a video, and I was wearing bright purple lipstick. If I'd known it was going to be viewed so much, I might have made better fashion choices. But as you can tell, I'm pretty leery. So, and I just did this video, and I just thought, I want to carry on talking about this. I want to explore it. I want to look at what mediumship means. I want to share it with people. And I just started, and I haven't stopped.
That's fantastic. It
is.
Really and I'm so glad as well, because, you know, again, in lockdown, I saw a lot of videos online, and I felt like I wanted to go and slide under the table, because I was absolutely, you know, mortified. There was I remember this one particularly young lady who was just doing this live with these cards. She couldn't even read them. She had her 2 children running around in their nappies behind her, and she was swearing and talking to her children whilst doing it. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And then there was other ones, and I just felt really embarrassed, and I thought, no wonder we get so much stick all the time, you know, because people like that are not making it easy for us. It's not easy anyway, doing this kind of work, you know, or being accepted. I think it's getting easier, but obviously everyone thinks we're all charlatans or frauds and all the rest of it, because it can't possibly be true, anything out of the ordinary. So yeah, it's really not helpful at all.
No.
So, you know, I totally get you, you know, doing that. Have you found as well, because when I'm teaching my students like to do what I do, I always say to them, when you take this journey, sometimes you'll find that people drop away from your life to make room for new ones. Have you found that as well?
Absolutely. The cull of mediumship, isn't it, and spiritual development. I think that's because you always think the spiritual journey is the journey out to the spirit world, and we find out it's the journey in and it's dealing with your own stuff and your own insecurities and all of your own problems. And as you rectify that, resolve it, integrate it, learn from it, you then stop putting up with the stuff that you would have put up with from other humans. So you start, as you raise your vibration, you start to choose joy in your life, and you start to choose what makes you happier. The people around you who are not choosing joy and not choosing happiness and are buying into a narrative of disempowerment and negativity, you just can't be around them. It's like 2 magnets being pushed together. You try because you've known them for ages and you love them, but actually it hurts.
You can't.
And you have to let them go. Yeah,
absolutely. And I've had people say to me, oh, you know, this person's left my life and it's really random and I don't understand why. And I'm like, just accept it. They're not in alignment with you anymore and they're not serving you. And then they think about it and they're like, yeah, you're right. Actually, they were quite negative. And also, as a psychic or a medium, we do get a lot of people around us like energy vampires that will kind of try and suck our energy. We get inbox messages saying, oh, can you just do this for free and all the rest of it. And people don't, you know, you wouldn't go into, I don't know, a consultant office or a lawyer and say, can you do this for free, please?
I know.
And people don't understand that it's our time, it's our energy, you know, and it's not easy making that connection. It's very draining.
Yes. I don't think people talk about the impact to the self of mediumship. I think there's that idea, isn't there, that spirit will top you back up, and they do eventually, but that takes time. It's not an instantaneous process. And I think personally, I mean, like I said, I've had quite a journey with pricing and cost.
Yes.
But actually, if you want the right people will pay because they bring that energy.
Yeah, and again, I agree, because when my prices were lower, I was getting, not being rude, but I had some very dodgy clients, and there was one that was an absolute turning point for me, and I just thought no, and I put my prices up because I thought no, they're not the right people that I should be reading or serving. So what would you say is your favorite aspect of mediumship, of what you do?
Oh my goodness, I think, oh, wow, where do you start when you love it all so much? I think for me, it's on a day-to-day basis, personally, it is that having that connection, having that hope, knowing that spirit are there, knowing that no matter if you get it wrong, mess it up, let human take over and be a bit of an asshole for a while, they are still with you and they still love you. And there's something, I feel safe. I feel, it sounds cheesy to say held by the universe, but I do. I feel held by spirit. I feel like I can make mistakes. And it no one's judging me, no one's holding me back. They're wanting me to do better for myself, but there is no restriction there. So that, for me personally, on a working level, I think it's just reuniting people. It is bringing in that evidence and giving somebody that moment where they can feel that their loved one is there. Obviously, we know their loved ones are with them all the time. They haven't gone anywhere. They're beside them 24/7. But for that person, it's just having that moment where they accept and allow that love back in, and that can be really life-changing for people.
Absolutely, especially when someone's going through so much grief, you know, and they wanted to say that last thing or have that last connection, and you know what you do enables them to do that, which is absolutely priceless.
Yes.
The other question I was going to ask you is, if there was people watching this video, which there will be, that would like to start to do mediumship, start to learn with the spirit world, obviously you're living proof that anyone, you know, can do that. And of course they can. I think we both teach beginners classes as well.
Absolutely.
So what would you say to somebody that wanted to embark on this journey? What advice would you give them?
I would say mediumship in its essence is simple. The resistance that you're feeling is yours. It's not spirit's resistance to working with you. I hear so many disempowering things like spirit haven't come close enough, the spirit's running out of energy and they're moving back. No, they're not. They come from an infinite power, an infinite source. They don't get tired. They're not off doing, someone said once I heard the other day, they're off doing their work, so they've got to leave. What? No, they haven't. And so I think it's okay to admit when your battery is running low, and as a medium you learn to develop that battery, expand that battery, extend the amount of time you can work with spirit. That needs to be taken slowly. If you're achieving a really good reading in 10 minutes, don't suddenly put it up to 20 and do every reading for 20 minutes and expect to hold that power. Allow yourself to build gradually, take your time with it. But in its essence, they are there, you are talking to them, and anything else that gets in the way of that is all about you and nothing to do with spirit.
Absolutely. Now, when I was learning as I was growing up, so I'm showing my age here, I'm 46, and basically when I was younger and everything was happening to me, there was no internet. I mean, that's how old I am. There's no internet, no resources. No phones, nothing. And so I was just known as a witch. You know, people just said, oh, you're a bit weird, but in a good way. And it was actually a very scary experience for me because I didn't have those places to go to learn how to work in the right way. And I remember thinking all kinds of bizarre things, like if I open myself up to this, you know, I'm going to have dead people walking around my bed at night pulling my covers off. And I know obviously this is not true at all now, because once you open yourself up to it and you're working in the right way, you would never have anything like that, you know. And I know that a lot of people watching this video that would love to do something like this, they're worried about opening up a can of worms and they're worried about things. But you know, at the end of the day, if you're working in a right way and you've got that protection, then it's fine, isn't it?
I mean, I have to say, I don't even believe in protection.
Oh, okay.
So, I do nothing. And so you have to do what is right for you. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's not that I don't believe in protection in a way that I think you shouldn't do it. If you feel like you need to do it, do it.
Yeah.
I used to do it. But in my understanding, there is nothing to fear in the spirit world. Okay. All of the fear stuff is human.
Yeah.
Partly because it sells really well. I mean, aside from anything else, I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox, Fenn, but you know, if you were an evil spirit, demonic attachment, why you would need to get in a doll? Of all of the things that you could do, why you would need to get in a doll, it just doesn't make sense to me. But I don't believe in any of that. I think fear sells. Now, I love horror movies, I love Stephen King, but I accept that that's different to the spirit world. So I don't protect myself at all, ever. I wouldn't work with spirit if I was afraid. I'm talking to you from my home right now.
Yeah.
But I think you can put yourself in situations where you can create fear. If you're going around a graveyard with a Ouija board, you're going to be feeling like you're going to be spooked. So you're going to create that experience for yourself. I think you can pull in energy through filters of expectancy. I get visitations from spirits sometimes during the night, and I go, do you mind? I like to sleep uninterrupted. I go back to sleep. I say, come back the next day if you want to talk to me. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And in all the time that I've worked with spirit, I've had 2 occasions where the spirit world have approached me to give a message to somebody, like my friend did to me. It's not a common occurrence, because I think the spirit world, in that infinite intelligence and infinite knowing, they know when it's right, and they believe in free will and choice. And obviously for me personally, they had to take steps to get me to realize that they were there. But generally speaking, I think it's up to free will and choice, and it's whether you are seeking it. So because they're always there, if you're looking, you'll find them. But absolutely. I don't think they impose. So I wouldn't worry. I think people often ask me that when I demonstrate, like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, nothing. They're not bothering me. They don't come and talk to me when I'm with my children, because I'm with my children. They don't tap me on the shoulder when I'm in the hospital saying goodbye to my nan who's passing, because I'm saying goodbye to my nan who's passing. And I think the spirit world have got the knowing. They know.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm really lucky as well, touch wood. I suppose everyone talks about protection, don't they, and I think what I've noticed as well with some people, when you meet people that are open all over the place and they've not been guided, then this is just personally what I found, there's a lot of negativity around them. So they'll be picking up on negative things, and really what it is that they're opening up all over the place, and they don't actually know what they're doing, and they've got no direction. So they're and they might be a little bit negative themselves, so they're picking up on negative things. And when I've had students like that, it's just about steering them in the right direction.
Absolutely. And that's the difference between psychic and mediumship, which people need to understand. So I think when you're in mediumship, you are receiving, not seeking. The spirit world are bringing it in. When you're in psychic, you're seeking. And if your filter is set to, I expect people to take energy from me, then you'll come across a load of people that do that. If you're seeking, I expect there to be something spooky here, then that is what you will receive. And this is, it's so funny, because I don't do ghost hunts, and I talk to a lot of people that do on my podcast and stuff like that. And I know it wouldn't be a good fit for me, because I've watched too many horror movies. So I know that I'd freak out, but it doesn't mean that I think it's spirit. It just means that I would freak out, because I'm pulling in on that frequency. So you're exactly right. You have to teach people to stop pulling that stuff in, to stop having that kind of open, like a big sucking black hole, pulling all that stuff to them. And so that to me is boundaries and barriers. And it's really, really important for people to learn. You're exactly right.
It's also like, I don't know, I'm sure you've probably come across it, when people say to me, I've had people come to me and they go, I think someone's put a hex on me or something, and everything keeps going wrong. And I go, yeah, do you know why everything keeps going wrong? Because you think it's going wrong, because you believe they've put a hex on you. You believe everything's gonna be, exactly, what you give out there, you're gonna get back. And they're like, oh, but it's true. If you think something bad's going to happen, just when you start off your day, if you trip over first thing in the morning, you're like, oh, that's it, it's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a bad day. Absolutely. So it's about being in that right mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's, I think, if someone had said that to me when I was having the shitstorm that was my life, I'd have wanted to kick them in the ghoulies. So I think it's about, you have to kind of come to that under your own
in your own time
and your own experience. And I don't think that's a journey that can be shortcut. I think you have to go through it. You have to experience the pain. You have to hit rock bottom so that you can ask for better. And in the asking for better, you realize how much control you had all along.
Absolutely. And how often, Hannah, do you do your platform shows?
I do about 3 or 4 a month. So they have a massive impact on my energy.
I can imagine.
Absolutely exhausting. So I have to get the balance right to make sure that I have enough recovery time. And I'm a Capricorn. I like to work hard. So I have to find that resolution within myself of allowing myself to rest, which I am really bad at.
I know we're always preaching things to other people, aren't we? But we don't look after ourselves. And I think I even listened or read somewhere that you're taking December off. Are you going to stick to that?
Yeah, but my own version of off, which will be carried on writing my book and doing it. And it's something, you're self-employed. I mean, last night I spent 2 hours doing bloody invoices and accounts and stuff.
Yes.
So even when you're not working, you're still working a bit, but I am intending to not do so many.
Maybe no clients or platform.
No platform, and just recharge, because I'm a terror for this. Yeah.
No, I understand. I'm exactly the same. I can work from morning till night. I was there last night late writing courses.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think as well, when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like a chore. So you're like, oh, okay. I mean, when you get ideas and things and downloads, they don't just come at certain times. It's like late at night. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to do that. So you start kind of jot it down and do it, don't you?
Yeah, and there's no request from spirit to do it right now. They're just trying to find the information in, and you and me are there like, right, rolling up our sleeves. Come on, let's do this. And they're like, no, you can do it tomorrow morning. And we're like, no,
no, we need to do it now. My creative energy is flowing now.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment in your career so far that kind of stands out to you?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think there's been so many great spirits that I've worked with, and for me, a mediumship is such a personal thing. I think different people have different ideas about what makes good mediumship.
Yeah.
So I am evidential, but I'm not going to just ricochet through a CV of
names and all these things.
Yeah, that just leaves me a bit cold, but I also understand it for the brilliance that it is. For me, it's when you get that person in and they are so clear in their presence and their personality, and their loved one is blown away by the essence of them.
Yes.
And so readings like that really are the things that stick with me the most. I would like to say that it's the good things that stick, but I'll be brutally honest and say it's always the bits I got wrong that I think about the most.
I know, don't we all, but and I would imagine they're like this, and then they're all the ones you got right.
Yeah, but you hold on to that. So the things, it's so funny because I instantly went, what do I remember in all these years? And I was like, oh, I remember when I got that wrong and I was really pissed off. And I remember when I didn't interpret that correctly. And I think about that stuff. So I share that because if you've got developing mediums watching this, it's really important for them to understand that is natural. That is what we do. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect reading. I think there's always something you come away from thinking, I wish I'd done that differently or learnt that differently or explained that differently. But spirit are amazing. They will get that information through.
And also I find that when you have your sitter in front of you, it depends on the sitter as to how the reading goes. If you've got somebody who's completely skeptic, completely shut off, then you're really not going to get anything. They're just wasting their time because they're not going to have a good reading, because you're supposed to be working with energy.
Absolutely. It's a three-way. That's what I call it. But it's spirit, it's the medium, and it's the sitter, and you can't have one without the other. And it's the same in platform. If you get a resistant audience and it takes a lot of time to place the links and stuff like that, then even within that you will find that spreads, and the whole night will be harder. You can tell in the first 2 links what sort of night you're going to have. And sometimes that's brilliant, and sometimes you think, oh my god, I've got 2 hours and I think I'd rather be at the dentist.
Pulling teeth. No, it's definitely, I think as well, it's lovely. I always say to like my sitters, what's amazing, like, because obviously I don't do mediumship all the time, I do it sometimes whenever people want me to do it. What's amazing is you don't just get to meet your sitter, you get to meet this amazing person in spirit as well, and learn about their personality, and if their energy's flowing, and they're crystal clear at communicating, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's so many elements and variables in mediumship that, you've got your sitter's energy, you've got their willingness to hold a space. There's nothing worse than when you get a sitter that comes in and says, it's all right, we set a password, just tell me the password, and you just think, kill me now. And equally, I think personality plays a part. Like, I am better with loud people that are like me, that are chatty.
Yeah.
I find the flow works better. And you are, you know, the spirit that comes in, although they're part of the oneness and the collective, they are taking on the aspects of who they were in life, so that we can recognize them evidentially. And you're communicating with them. And I find chattier ones easier. When they're very quiet, sometimes it feels like you're like, are you still there? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, well, are you going to talk to me? And they're like, well, what do you want to know? And you're like,
oh. I always say to people, please say yes if I'm making sense and no if I'm not, because you need to hear their voice to just have that little bit of energy exchange.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that helps. So rather than
it's
just
so
being
funny, because
silent.
I say in every day, I'm like, we are going to need your voice. And so, can you answer me? And they go, yeah. And I go, oh, we need it louder. And they go, yeah. Oh God, every time. And then you get somebody and they'll put their hands up and you'll go, did you understand? And they go, yeah. And you go, okay, well, what didn't you understand? And they go, oh, I suppose I understand it all. And you go, so I've got granddad. And they go, and you think, oh man,
I know, why pay the money and come and have a reading if you're going to be like that?
I know. But then I think there's also so much going on from a sitter's point of view. Like the other day I did a dem, and I had this gentleman through, first one of the night, FML, and no one could take him. And it was a difficult night anyway. And I was like, marvelous. And I work with him because I personally have a real pet hate. I have seen mediums go, oh, they're not here for anyone, I'll send them away. And what spirit world in its infinite intelligence would send somebody that isn't connected to someone in the audience? So you have to stay true to it. And you have to be like, well, someone is going to make sense to someone later, but I will not carry on working with them. Here's the message, blah, blah, blah. And they messaged me afterwards. Someone messaged me afterwards, as always happens, and said, I understood everything you said, but it wasn't who I expected to hear from. And so you can understand from their point of view, they've got their mum in spirit, their grandma in spirit, who they were really close to, and they have got their estranged grandfather from their dad's side of the family that they never had contact with. You can understand why and of course there's that need from that spirit to come in and rectify, or to prove that they're still part of their lives. So you can't take away the need, but it's hard for a sitter to be open to that. So it's always a challenge, always.
And some they kind of come in, don't they, with that certain person in their head, like their mum, so that's all they can think of. I remember having a client once, and we did this reading, and she was a bit sort of like but she was a bit vague, and I thought, oh, okay. Anyway, she left and she texted me afterwards and she said, I just want to say I'm really sorry. She said, everything you said made absolute sense. She said, it was because I came in and I wanted to hear one thing. And because you didn't mention that one thing, I was just dismissing everything else until I'd gone away and, you know, thought about it. And I was just like, oh my God.
It's painful.
It's so painful.
You have to love it as much as we love it. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. Why would you do it?
You just wouldn't, would you?
Yeah, you wouldn't. And that's the thing. And that's what I mean. I always say to people, you know, you think it's going to be like Ghost Whisperer, where she, you know, she can hear them. We can't hear them. They don't have a voice box. They're communicating in energy, and that energy is limited by us. Of course, the spirit world know that you wanted them to say purple clog 672 when they came in. They know that, but they've got to try and get clog, purple, and those numbers through my energy. There's actually 30 other bits of evidence they can get through easily that are still right and still evidential, and that's the problem.
No, absolutely. I think people, when you're coming for a reading, you just need to be fully open and accept what comes, really.
And the ones that are so much better, aren't they? They're so much
absolutely
fun, and you can, and it builds, because it also
builds our energy, doesn't it?
It builds. So, you know, if you hold off at the beginning and you're like, well, me, from the beginning, you're not giving it a chance to the power to build and the evidence to build. You're cutting it off straight away, and that's also the problem.
Right. Well, I think you're very brave doing platform. I really do, because if I couldn't get a link, I'd want to do a runner.
Well, spirit broke that habit. So I used to have that, and they kept asking me to let it go, and I couldn't let it go, Fenn. I just couldn't. Every time I got a no, I pulled straight out of my power. I was so upset by it. So they gave me a whole night of no's, 90 minutes. nothing but no's, not one spirit taken. And I wept for 3 days. I sat like ET with a blanket around my head, sobbing on the couch, going, oh, I can't do this. I'm going to go work at Tesco. It's so much easier. And then I couldn't leave it behind. But it was actually a gift, because from that moment on, I had experienced the worst case scenario, and I had survived.
Yeah,
I felt like I was going to join the spirit world in shame, but I didn't. I survived. And so that was, I knew then that I could carry on. So in a way it was a gift, but if you'd asked me,
I guess it gave you extra strength, really.
Yeah. If you'd asked me
when you get a no now.
Yeah. I'd have gone, no, it was terrible. It was the worst night ever. So
gosh, oh no, you're so brave, but you know, you're amazing at what you do. If anyone wants to contact you that's watching this video, if anyone wants to do any of your courses, to have a reading with you, to come to one of your evenings, if you'd like to tell us your website.
Yep, sure. It's hannahmedium.co.uk.
And what about Instagram? Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm either Medium Hannah or Hannah Medium on Instagram. I'm Hannah Medium on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, but I think Instagram I'm Medium Hannah, but you'll find me.
Okay, awesome. And also your podcast, Mediumship Matters.
Yeah.
So if anybody would like to listen to Hannah's podcast, they are fabulous and very funny as well. And I guess they can write in and ask you questions.
Yeah, I love questions. So please do. It's just if you email podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk, then your question will be featured, and you can find the podcast everywhere. So you just search for it and it'll come up.
Thank you so much for joining us, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
You have an amazing day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.